Okay, folks, for this lesson, we'll start off with a problem. Right, we have Mighty Mo. Right, he wants to work at a software company creating game apps. Okay, so the company will pay him $100 to show up and $10 per hour for him to write the code. Right, so the task is for us to explain the relationship between the number of hours worked and earnings using a table, a graph, and an equation. Alright, so that's what we have to do here. Okay, so let's start off by making a t-table for this situation. Right, we're gonna say the x will be the number of hours worked. Right, so this would be the hours, and the y will be the dollar amount or the earnings. Okay, so let's make the x and y table here, or the t table. We know when it's 0 hours, right? When Mighty Mo shows up for work, he already received $100 from the company, right? And if he works 1 hour, he'll get 110, right? Because every hour, right? If you remember, he'll get $10 per hour for writing the code. Okay, so after 2 hours he'll get 120, after 3 hours he'll get 130, and so on, right? So we can keep going. We'll stop at 5 here, so we get a good set here. Alright, so we made a t-table to represent that situation. Okay, after making the table, now we can actually plot the points on a coordinate plane here. So as you can see, I have earnings on the y-axis, right? It's vertical, and the number of hours worked on the horizontal axis. Okay, so this is your x and this is your y, and we know that the first point will be 0, 100, so we have to mark off the first one. So let's say it goes up to here, right? And that starts out at 100, right? And then it'll be like 110, 120, and so on, right? I think we went up to 150, right? And that's how you want to scale it, since from 0 to 100 there will be no data value, so we'll just make a little squiggly line here, and we'll start off with 100, and the hours, right, will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we stopped at 5, but we can keep going if we wanted to. Right, so now we can plot the points. Okay, so let's pick a nice color here. So the first point was 0, 100, so it'll be right here. Okay, and then the second point was 1 and 110, right? And 2 and 120, 3 and 130, 4 and 140, 5 and 150. Right? Notice I can connect these points here, these dots, and make a nice line. Okay, here's my nice line here. Right, so this represents a linear relationship here, a linear function. Okay, and the next step will be to create an equation to represent the situation here. Okay, before we write out the equation, there's one other thing I want to show you. And if you look at the change in the y, alright, let's take a look at this component here. Right? If I go up by, well, this is 10, right? I went up by 10 units, right? And for the x, I went up by 1. Okay? So we have a concept that's called the rate of change. Alright? And that refers to the change in the y, right, which is the 10, over the change in the x, which is the 1. So I can write this out, this rate of change that I wrote down here. It'll just be the 10 over the 1, right? So if I increase 1 hour of work, right, for Mighty Mo, I'll increase the earning that he'll get by $10, right? So this reduces to just 10, right? Which means that for 1 hour work or 1 additional hour work, Mighty Mo will get an additional $10 added on to his earnings. Okay, so that the concept, which is the rate of change, right, refers to the change in the Y divided by the change in the X. In this case, it will be the pink over the green. Okay. Alright, so let's see if we can write out an equation to represent our little situation here. Right, so Mighty Mo shows up to work and he gets $100 automatically, right? And for every hour that he works, he'll get 10 additional dollars, right? So I'm gonna let Y be the earnings, right? The amount of money that he'll get. Okay, so big dollar sign there, right? And I'm gonna let X be the number of hours that he put in, or number of hours worked. Okay. Alright, so now looking at this, I know it's going to be an equation, so there's going to be an equal sign. Alright, so let's put that there. And Y is going to be the dependent variable, right? Because it depends on how many hours Mighty Mo put in, right? It will increase accordingly. So Y will go here, right? And that's going to equal to, well, he's going to get $100 automatically, right? Just for showing up, right? Just for showing up, he'll get the $100, right? So now, for every hour that he worked, right, he'll get an additional $10 added on to his earnings, right? So it's going to be added on. Let me make it this color in here. Plus, right? Added on to X, right? The number of hours worked. Well, we have to multiply that by 10, right? Because if X were 1, it will be 10. If X were 2, we want it to be 20. So it's going to be multiplication between the 10 and the X. Alright, so this here, this looks pretty good here. Here's our equation to represent our situation that we started off with. Okay, Y being the earnings is equal to $100. That's the amount that he'll get for just showing up. Plus, for every hour that he put in, he'll get $10. So plus the 10x. Okay, so this is the equation to represent the situation. And this is a linear equation, right? Alright, there's just one last thing that I want to mention, and that's the 10 next to the x, right? Or being multiplied with the x. And if you recall, we talked about that 10, and that's known as the rate of change, right? And that refers to for each additional hour that Mighty Mo put in, he'll get 10 additional dollars, right? And that's the rate of change. And we're done here, so we're pretty happy.